Welcome to Normalize. We are going to talk to you about data-first cloud security for everything you run in the cloud. Normalize empowers security teams with all the components of holistic data security. That's data discovery, data classification, access governance, risk detection and remediation, and compliance. Now we're just going to give you a flavor of what is available in the Normalize platform here in this demo. Normalize continuously discovers all of your data stores, resources, and we classify all of the data. That we do so without ever removing the data from your environment. We maintain your data security. Now, one of the things we want to start with is taking all that information. We put it into a graph and build a relationship model of all of your data and of all of the access and resources. And we want to show you some of the things that we can do once we have that relationship model in place. And right here at this visualizer, what you see is the mapping of data attack paths. Now, this is unique to Normalize. We're the first to patent this. We give you full context of the resource configuration, the access configuration, and the data classification. So our customers, they get a more precise assessment of the risk of a data breach, and they can visualize this, and they can analyze this, and they can interact with this. So what you see here on this screen is an internet user representing the public. And what you also see is from our configuration, a Amazon VPC that contains a EC2 instance. Now, this EC2 is publicly accessible. That's its own questionable situation, but in this case, not uncommon, I would say. One of the things we also did is discover that there was an S3 bucket in this Amazon instance. And this S3 bucket was discovered to also contain privacy or secure information. So you see this, we flagged this as PII data. Now, looking right at the graph, you can see that the public user does not appear to directly have access to this S3 bucket. Good, but that is where appearances are deceiving. Our public user actually has access, and it's through this publicly exposed EC2 instance. And what we essentially map for you is that it is very, very easy for this data that is very important to you to be in the hands of somebody you don't want to have it in. This is the visualization of all of the relationship, of all the configuration. There's also access paths. Access paths certainly can become attack paths, but this is basically understanding where your data is and who, appropriate or otherwise, has access to that data. If we look at it right here in this visualization from a Snowflake instance, we can see, as an example, here's this user. What does this user have access to? We show both from a roles perspective, but also all the way out to the exact columns, and sometimes even the classifiers are here as well. You can invert that query, though. You can say, hey, I see a bunch of hashed passwords in this particular environment. I would really like to know who has access to those. And here we can see that way too many people have access to our hashed passwords, and we can see that through specifically the role that provides that. From the roles that the role that defines how those users have access to that data, here you can see the privileges they have, the types of objects, and of course the object names. So access path management, just a visualization. The data flow map here is data in transit, data in motion. And what we're visualizing for you here, of course, on the left, you see the data sources, and on the right, as it progresses, how that data is moving through applications, even to external applications. Or mousing over any one of these flows will show you the data that is being detected in this flow. So here we can see a domain name, email address, IP address, MAC address. But then we can also see that coming through this notifications service, heading out to GPT is just the domain names, whereas over to Snowflake, we're seeing email address flow. This visualization is continually updated, and it allows us to see it at this holistic level, but we can also be more selective and say, I am actually very concerned with maybe where all my emails are going. And by looking at the email addresses, we can see that there are multiple data flows that are from multiple sources, but most importantly, to multiple external destinations. In addition to all of the different classifications about what data has actually been discovered in these data stores, we also give a monetary value attribution to each data store, which again, from a prioritization perspective, provides an additional relative computational point for you to say, hey, this one's the most important set of data because I got a lot of money riding on this particular data store. We can drill down into any of these data stores, and we'll pick this one in particular. So again, this is an S3 bucket. These are all of the risk signatures, going back to our earlier conversation, right? We did this one probably a little up front, but the risk signatures that were detected against the configuration and access here with this data store. Let's just pick one right off the top here. What we see here is an S3 bucket. It contains the sensitive data, but it's also accessible when an IAM user has more than one active access key. So we have a misconfiguration here that leads to the potential of this data being exploited. we have within the platform all the details you need to resolve it, and so much so that we actually spell it all out in a form of remediation. So here is everything you need to know and what you need to share if this is something that needs to be handed off to DevOps, SecDevOps, etc. We also highlight for you from this data store all of the access. You've seen us show that in a variety of ways throughout the product. But one thing that was not shown before is the fact that we can actually revoke that access. We've got unnecessary access that puts us at risk. We can take care of that right here in the platform.